No, that's me and my brother James in Pittsburgh, where we were born and raised. Um, I was between 5 and 7, and he was between 7 and 9, accompanying me on the Zeitz Pupils Concerto No. 2.
Oh my goodness, what a treat that was, Amy.
It's funny, as I rewatched it last night more closely than usual, I noticed that I was actually using vibrato, and that's more vibrato than I can do now.
Was that the last time you used vibrato?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Well, if you're just tuning in and you were wondering what on earth, what was happening just now, and yeah, that is a cat in the back there. Bach Collegium San Diego has an ongoing series of interviews every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And today we are really thrilled to have Amy Wang. Amy Wang is such a dear friend, and we'll get into this in really good detail. But Amy, you go back, I think, to the very, very beginning of BCSD, and I think possibly just before the actual beginning. Is that right?
Like around 200 BC.
Yeah. I think, well, yeah, for us that would be the equivalent of that. But my recollection, just so people know what our past is, I think 2002, you came down for a project that I was doing with then the Los Angeles Baroque Orchestra and Greg Maldonado, is my recollection. You were in the violin section.
Yeah.
And then you came back a year later when we did the St. John Passion, and that was officially our first concert. And I looked to my left, and there was this quiet violinist sitting in the sea. Well, it wasn't quite a sea of violins, but in the section. And little did I know that you would have so much to say over the years, and here we are. So, is that your recollection?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get it. Yeah.
I remember seeing you scoping out one of the LA concerts, like either LA Baroque or Musica Angelica.
I think it was Musica Angelica. Yeah.
And I distinctly remember seeing you like in the back off to the side, like skulking in the shadows watching.
I was trolling. Yeah, I remember that. You know what? Now that you mention it, my memory tells me that in anticipation of the St. John, I went up to hear you guys play a concert at All Saints Beverly Hills because somebody had mentioned to me that you guys were doing it. So I wanted to see what you guys were all about. And so that's what took me up there. Michael Egan said, "Hey, come up to All Saints." So, okay, I didn't remember that. But, well, today, in our time with Amy here, we're going to cover a lot of ground. And as she put it in a Facebook comment yesterday, it might be bumpy, get a little bumpy along the way. But the whole idea behind these interviews is to get to know folks a little bit better. We're going to keep doing them for a while. And also to share some interesting stories that you may not know. Some of you who come to our concerts get to just talk to us in a very minimal way before or after a concert. And this is a way to really get to know folks. So Amy, today we're going to talk about our trip to Mexico City that we took in 2009. So do you want to set that up, prep that up for us while I get some photos up of that time?
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I did print out the email that you had sent me back in September 2009.
Okay.
Hi, Amy. As you might know, members of BCSD go down to Mexico City annually to perform at a music festival every November. This year, due to the screwed up economy, they can only host a small chamber group. This year, I thought it would be cool to take down 2 violins, soprano, and continuo. You. I would like to check in with you to see if you might be interested. It's November 11th to 14th. And so here was what happened, right? Wednesday, we all flew separately from California to Mexico City. Thursday night, our first concert in Mexico City. Friday morning, we drive 225 miles or 5 to 6 hours over to Michoacan. 2 hours later, have a concert. Saturday morning, rush back to Mexico City airport to fly home.
Wow, I didn't realize it was so compact.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought we were there a week. And for those who are wondering what we're talking about, so around that time, 2007, 8, 9, BCSD had been invited to be part of what really was a historic organ festival that was centered in Mexico City and nearby areas. And I think the third year is what Amy is referring to. The year before, I had gone with a chorus, and then the next year I convinced them to bring a handful of musicians, because I just absolutely love going to Mexico City. Mexico City for me is one of the greatest cities that I've ever visited. It's just wonderful. And so yes, I did invite Amy, and we went down there, and the adventure started. Because if you've ever traveled with me, those of you who know me well know that adventures are always around the corner. Sometimes dangerous, but
sometimes delicious.
Sometimes delicious, but that for me is the exhilaration of travel. So I'm gonna, Amy and I put together a little slideshow. It's a little show and tell of some of the memories of that wonderful trip to Mexico City in 2009. So, and Amy, what are you gonna do as I show these pictures?
So, when I used to travel, I would have a travel journal to keep myself occupied. And I dug up a couple excerpts from the time that we were down there. So I hope they're interesting.
So
and relevant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, it's all relevant, because I think people like to see pictures. I think I have found that people in general like show and tell.
Yeah,
I would have to think. Yeah. So this festival was called. This was the poster from that event. The event was called the Festival Internacional del Órgano Barroco, Ciudad de México. Although the organ that's on the poster is an organ from Oaxaca. But that aside, we were there as invited guests to do this concert. And so, as Amy noted, she's going to be reading a few little anecdotes and fun notes that she took as we were traveling in Mexico City. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to show some pictures. And along the way, Amy, I'm warning you now, if there is opportunity, and there will be, to talk about a specific photo, I think we should take that moment.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes. Okay.
So my first two entries are a bit unfocused, but they're short. So Wednesday, November 11th, 2009, LAX, Alaska Airlines Terminal, around 7:30 a.m. It smells really bad here, a gross, cheesy smell. I don't know if it's the girl who's sitting next to me or simply the fact that we're situated right next to the men's bathroom. It's where my gate is. God, there sure are some ripe smells coming from somewhere. A few thoughts on this trip as I sit here waiting interminably. I am seriously very excited about this trip. I'm excited about playing La Folia too, though less so than the actual trip to Mexico. I'm feeling not so great about the Folia, and after Ruben played me the CD of Andrew Manzi and Igar, I felt totally as if I needed to relearn the whole thing and figure out a new interpretation. So that was 7:30 a.m. My next entry was 5:31 p.m. I'm sitting here at Wings, a totally TGI Fridays, Chili's, whatever American-style sports bar, complete with flat-screen TVs showing ESPN2. It's at the Benito Juarez airport. We're waiting for Ruben and Anne-Marie. We, meaning me and Nelly Nikolaeva. I am incredibly happy to be here in Mexico. As we approached the runway landing, I saw some of the city, and boy, they weren't kidding when they said it's a dense city. It's packed like sardines here, these buildings and houses. My heart soared upon seeing it, and the gorgeous random outcroppings of mountains just randomly here and there jutting out from the city landscape. I wanted to cry. I was so thrilled. I wanted to cry into my taco. I almost feel like I don't even need to see anything else. Just being here is enough.
That's wonderful. Let's pause just for a second. You mentioned La Folia, and you just reminded me of what we were there to do. We played La Folia, as you mentioned, but we also, I think, played the Handel Salve Regina.
Yeah, I have the the program here. Yeah.
Okay. So what else did you do? What else did we do that day or that?
Rosenmuller, Eterna Deus.
Oh yes, of course.
Handel arias from 9 German arias. Corelli Trio Sonata in F. Yeah. Corelli La Folia, and you wrote, "I may add some harpsichord organ solo rep if needed."
Oh, okay. I don't know if that happened, or you know what? I think it did.
I think
At
it
one
did.
of the venues. Yeah, yeah, right. Of course, we'll get to that because there's a picture about it. We did when we got to Michoacan. I got to play the fabulous
massive,
organ in the church.
yeah.
And is that your cat, Amy? Is that your cat
Yes.
right here? Yeah. What's the cat's name? Tell us.
Apricot.
Apricot. Say hello to Apricot. There we are. Okay, so obviously, as you can all see, that is Amy. One of my recollections from our tour to Mexico City is that as soon as we got there, Amy was basically eating nonstop, and I had to peel her away from various and sundry eating establishments to rehearse and do other things. But so here's some other fun photos. This was, of course, me. I love mole, and one of the first things that I
Wasn't this at Vips?
This was at Vips, yes.
Yeah, it was our first night.
The first night, yeah. And Vips is not exactly fine cuisine, of course. In Mexico City, there's fine cuisine, but it's one of the most accessible, quick. They're everywhere, and you can get a decent plate of mole just to kind of get that fix out of the way. And so there I was. And was wearing my Mexico national team baseball something or other that I picked up. So more photos. This is our venue, Amy. This is our wonderful venue. I don't remember. Actually, I think the name of the place was Nuestra Señora de los Pilares, Our Lady of the Pillars. Did I get that right, Amy?
I don't have it written down.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, this beautiful church. And one of the things that I love about Mexico City and traveling in Mexico proper is that being very much into church architecture, there's a stunning church every 2 or 3 on every block. And this one is situated in the street behind the cathedral, right in the middle of town. And this is where our first concert was that night. And my recollection is that you were very tired, Amy, and you were starting to fall asleep.
Oh, really?
On the lectern. You had your head down on the lectern because you were so tired. But it is a glorious space. And then we did a little.
Wait, go back. Because my next journal entry was about this concert.
Go for it.
Thursday, 11:22 p.m. I wrote this in my room at the Hotel Catedral.
Yeah.
Do you remember us staying there?
Yes.
So this was after the concert. The concert went well enough. Some cues were missed, tempo too. But it didn't really matter because the audience there appeared to be enraptured. This was probably the most flattering concert ever. It's exactly as Ruben had explained to us. When Nellie, Anne-Marie, and I arrived at the church tonight, and Ruben was already there because he wanted to check the harpsichord, he came up to us and said, the place was so packed, people were sitting on the floor. It was spectacular, the quantity and quality of the audience. Afterwards, several people asked for autographs, which was rather mind-blowing. My favorite part, though, was just having the chance to practice my Spanish.
Yeah, Amy, about that, one of the things I did mention to you that I absolutely love about every time I've been in Latin America, Mexico City specifically, even Oaxaca, and when we went to Bolivia on another trip, is that, I mean, if you just say there's going to be a music concert, you don't have to say the type of music, who's performing, just say there's a music concert. People will come out. Unlike here where you say, if I said there's going to be a music concert at the park down the street and we're going to be playing, Handel, Corelli, and Vivaldi, we'd be hard pressed to probably get 10 people there.
Yeah.
But in these instances, in some cultures, it's just music is this incredible thing that they don't want to miss it, and they see it as something that is being given to them as a gift, and they absolutely come out to support it. And so that's what you were experiencing, I think, is that big crowd, and then even being asked for your autograph.
Yeah, it was so weird. I mean,
yeah. So let's go on here. We did a little bit of sightseeing. Of course, when you're in Mexico City, one of the things that is so amazing is that you essentially have 3 cultures that coexist. You have the pre-Spanish buildings and edifices like this. Then you look beyond and you see colonial buildings beyond it. And then you look even a little past those and you see skyscrapers. And so it's one of those few reminders that you're in a city like Mexico City where these things kind of all come together, and it makes it for a very crazy place to be So we did a little sightseeing. I think Amy, I don't know if you took this photo or if I did, but
I took that. That was in Michoacan, actually,
that was in
across the
Michoacan.
street from our hotel.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see, a very typical sort of butcher shop in Mexico. Not what we're used to necessarily here in the States, but and then we made it to Michoacan.
Actually,
yeah,
may I
go ahead.
interrupt? So my
Absolutely.
next entry, we're getting to the end of my journal entries, don't worry,
okay.
is about going to Michoacan. Or actually, it was about Michoacan.
Yeah.
This was Friday the 13th.
All right.
11:44 p.m. After driving 225 miles or about 5 hours to Michoacan, and after the concert. In bed now at Hotel Rambal. Tonight's concert sure was something. The rehearsal began very inauspiciously. When we arrived around 6, we were told that the rehearsal time was reserved for us from 2 to 5. There was something going on in the church now and wouldn't end until 10 minutes before our concert. 10 minutes to rehearse? Oh, and we also saw some old retired Americans in this hotel's restaurant who were here specifically to attend our concert and came from 100 miles away. So anyway, back to the rehearsal. Then there were other issues like locating the portative organ, accessing the church organ, giving Ruben a chance to test it out, finding music stands, and, well, actually rehearsing our stuff a little. So we were stuck in this tiny corner of the church in the furthest part from the entrance. It was a huge church, and it was really dark, and I could barely see any of my music. But let me skip to the best part, the post-concert. We were engulfed with the nicest audience members, just like last night. A great number of them were quite young and so beautiful, boys and girls in their early teens. They were just such beautiful people. It was mind-boggling and rare. A bunch of them asked for autographs again, which is so sweet, but also confusing. Once again, it was the Mexican people who moved me the most with their thoughtfulness, generosity, and unquestioning acceptance. I also heard some very complimentary comments about our performance. I got lots of hugs from the young girls. God, it's a really fantastic feeling. A couple older ladies were also impressed with my Spanish. I aim to please.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up very well. And that's kind of a typical. My experience has always been that you get down there and it's like, okay, well, we have like the next 2 hours are for you to kind of check out the venue, check out the instrument you're playing. We can get you some stands. And then it turns out you have like 10 minutes to kind of put it all together. And again, they're just as excited that we're there. They could care less if we don't have music stands or even light. And that's always the case. And this church blew me away because I had never been. It was Zamora, Michoacan, and apparently this church was built, I think, in the late 19th century, early 20th century. It's obviously a neo-Gothic style architecture. I had never heard of it. I clearly had never seen it, but it was huge. You're absolutely right. And we were off in this little transept corner where the concert was. It wasn't in the nave proper. So I have a picture of that. Well, here's the organ in the back. I don't remember the builder, but it's sort of this futuristic facade, as you can see. And then I made my way up, and I had like all of a minute to see what I could do. And I remember those little sticky tabs, the stick notes were like, okay, well, these are the issues that are plaguing the instrument at the moment. So don't do this, don't do that. Don't you dare pull this stop in tandem with that one. And so that was just how it went.
So a fully functioning organ.
This is one of my favorite photos of after the concert. It could have been before, but this was the group that went on tour. And that's Anne-Marie Dice there to my left, and then Nelly Nikoleva and Amy. And it was the four of us who were on this amazing, fun trip. Actually, the trip to Michoacan lasted all of what? Was it even 12 hours total?
Well, what was the schedule again?
I mean, it was like we drove all of 6 hours, and then we were there at the concert, slept, and then we're out the door the next morning, I think.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then here's Amy, as she described so beautifully. Here she is signing an autograph. And just think about this, Amy. That gentleman right there, probably somewhere in a box or in an album, has your autograph and is probably pining for that moment when Amy Wang will return to Michoacan to play her violin again. Have you thought about that?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we should try to get back there. And if you look behind you, you see Anne Marie
Oh, yeah.
signing an autograph back there.
And all those young kids, that was just really weird, you know, to see so many young people attending a classical music concert with such fervor and interest.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is that here we have these, you know, these weird things about who goes to concerts and the age demographic and blah, blah, blah. Here, I mean, you say music concert, it could be anything. People will come out and support it. That's just the way the culture works there. And I love that so much. But, and I think after we came home from this tour, I think I said, I think we're going to try to go back, or I'll make it so we go back. And the truth is we never made it back. That festival continues to this day, and it's gone in a different direction. It's mostly now organ repertoire specifically. And I have not been back on a tour to Mexico City to do music in this way since our time. I've been back many, many times for research and other things, but not in this way. So perhaps we need to plan our own trip, Amy, just kind of like vagabonds, hobos, just kind of get on a train and go down, take a train.
Go to Oaxaca, maybe.
Go to Oaxaca, and we can
just
set up
there.
our own. Yeah, we just come in and distribute some flyers, maybe, that we're going to play La Folia and other delights, and then we just see who congregates, and we do a concert, and then we go to the next town. What do you say?
They could pay us in mole.
I would be happy to be paid in mole and coffee and hot chocolate, depending on the time of year. Yeah. Have you been to Oaxaca?
I have not. Okay.
Yeah, Oaxaca is quite extraordinary. I've been there 2 or 3 times, and again, the food is incredible, and it's a manageable city, unlike, say, Mexico City, that is overwhelming. It's absolutely, as you saw, it's overwhelming. So let's see. Let's leave our trip to Mexico City. Amy, tell us about your time with BCSD, since you have been there from the very beginning. My gosh, you probably have some crazy stories along the way, don't you? And memories.
Do I? I mean, I'm so bad at remembering things.
I mean, you do those wonderful things where we have a good week of rehearsal, we have a good opening concert, and then Amy Wang does that thing that everybody loves so much, and it's so awesome that you do it from time to time. You do it just enough that it stays fresh. You'll send an email, a group email to everybody saying what a wonderful week it has been. The rehearsals have been going very well. What an amazing roster we've put together, and I can't wait for the performance tonight. Thank you, BCSD. I love you all. Does that sound familiar?
Vaguely.
This always comes out as a surprise because you come off as very quiet, but you are not. Those of you who know your Facebook presence know that you tend to speak what's on your mind, from your cats to what you've eaten last night to
what happens to what I've eaten.
What happens to what you've eaten. So anyway, tell us some memories that you have with BCSD. I know you have some.
Oh no, you should have prepared me with this question, Ruben.
Just think back to what are some favorite concerts, favorite moments that you've had. I mean, I can think of several.
I mean, you know, the first one I can think of is Reggie Mobley wearing Margot Rude's tights.
Yes. Do you want to tell the story?
Well, I didn't know the story. I only heard about it like seconds before they came on stage.
Yeah, so, it's happened to all of us. It was time to put your concert black on, and Reggie, who was coming from another event gig, from another gig, I think brought the wrong black outfit. And he only had discovered this while we were getting, it was an hour before the concert, and he's missing his pants. And we were at the Greek Orthodox Church, and oh dear, what are we going to do now? And so we thought about, well, maybe when you do your arias, because he was also singing in the chorus, this was Messiah, I believe. We thought, well, we'll just put him behind the harpsichord and you can only see his upper half. But then it was recommended that Margot give up a pair of her leggings that Reggie could wear for the concert, which he did. He strapped
And he
in.
wore them over his jeans, right?
He wore them over his jeans.
So it wasn't just his like the silhouette of his shapely legs.
No. This was my recollection is that, and I could be wrong, and we will have. I'm working on getting Reggie on this interview series. At which point we will have the Urtext edition of this story with Reggie saying it himself. But my recollection is he put it over his jeans, so it was full of like weird little crevices and lumps from jeans. And he came out and did his singing, and it was glorious, of course. But that was quite a moment of, okay, he's out there in leggings that I think Margot picked up at CVS like earlier in the week. So anyway, invention. But that's certainly a great story. Can you think of any other great ones?
Oh, Ruben.
I have one.
You're asking the wrong person.
I have one. Do you want me to tell the story about you smelling? You could smell me from your desk, your second violin desk.
Okay.
I think we were in Pacific Beach here in San Diego. We were rehearsing the B minor Mass. This would have been probably 2012, 13, thereabouts. And I had gone to lunch, and I love burritos. And I went and picked up this big old wonderful burrito down the street. And we came back an hour later, and there we were doing the credo, I think, right out of the gate after the break. And everybody was back into rehearsal mode, and I think we stopped for something, and you said from under your breath from 10 feet away, Ruben, I can smell the burritos on your fingertips from my stand, is what you said. And I said, well, I'm so sorry. Perhaps I should have had a mint or something, but you were absolutely right. I probably did smell like a burrito at that point. Do you remember that story?
Well, I feel like I've made that comment more than once.
No, it's because I keep retelling the story, and it's just sort of grown this way. But yes, you did say that. Yeah.
It was probably meant as a compliment because I like burritos too.
Oh yeah, I mean, who doesn't, right? But when you go from the credo, the mind-blowing counterpoint that is in the credo, and you're thinking about that, and then in one split second you go from counterpoint to burritos. I don't know that I've ever switched back and forth from those two worlds in quite that way, and I think that's what kind of caught me off guard.
It's a very San Diego thing.
Very San Diego thing. So if we ever get back to doing things in person, and I'm always remaining hopeful that we'll get back to that once we get this pandemic crisis behind us, that there are some wonderful places to get burritos and Mexican food here in San Diego, usually called Adalberto's or some derivation of it. But Amy, tell us, you have more stories. What else do you want to talk about? The ball's in your court. You wanted to talk about the silence bit.
Oh, yes, that was my question for you.
Yeah.
In the San Diego Union Tribune,
yes,
back in April, there was an article about you where you talked about how things were going with BCSD during the pandemic and all the stuff that professional musicians were kind of scrambling to do online as a way to try to keep producing stuff or just keep things like keep themselves in other people's consciousness, I guess. And just for them to have something to do. I just thought it was interesting that you said, let's see, where did you say it? Oh, I'm scrolling through the article. Where is it? Are you looking at the article too?
I'm not. No, I think it was something about silence, right? Just the gist of it was.
Sorry, I should have been a little better prepared.
Do you want me to paraphrase?
Oh, it's not even in the body of the article. I guess it's just try to live in the silence a bit more.
Yeah.
Oh, you said, now I'm feeling like all of these virtual performances can't fill the void of live performance or that loss of community we're all feeling.
Yeah.
As many wonderful older performances as we have and new footage that can be live streamed of musicians performing in their living rooms, I think we're fooling ourselves if we believe that this is a replacement for the very thing we're mourning, which is live performances. I think
Yeah.
not knowing when the pandemic will end, we should just try to live in the silence a bit more, accept the fact that what we've been doing is gone and come to terms with being in that void.
Right.
So,
You had a
yeah,
question about that?
well, I mean, do you still feel that way?
It comes and goes. The day that that reporter called me, it was a bit of a surprise. And full disclosure, I was having a hard day, probably a hard week. And I was feeling, when the whole thing shut down, I think none of us really knew. We really didn't know, what the next few months were going to be looking like. I think we all had it in our mind, or at least I did, that okay, it's going to be kind of slow for a couple of months, 3 months maybe, and concerts canceled, and then we'll sort of things get back to normal.
Yeah.
And as things started to kind of unravel, and it was very clear that we were headed to, it was starting to spill into the fall and into the late fall and all that sort of thing. I think I started to feel pretty down about the whole thing. And then earlier in the process, I too was about, okay, I think I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And this is a great opportunity to produce content of A, B, and C. And then it got to a point where I can't sustain this. This is like too much work, number one. Number two, it's not, first of all, I don't really have a lot of technological prowess, and I can't do the Brady Bunch thing and do it well. That is the little squares, the virtual stuff. And so, maybe I can do one and put one together, but I certainly can't keep it going. And so when that reporter called me, I kind of had given up, and I thought, you know what, maybe what I'm being asked to do is just to be quiet for a while, just shut it down for a while and use the opportunity to A, reflect, and B, maybe call people, donors that, BCSD donors on the phone and reconnect with people one-on-one this way. Maybe write them a handwritten letter and say, hey, I know we can't do performances right now, but you've been so important over the last 10 years in your support for BCSD. And so I was very much going that route, and it still comes and goes. It just comes and goes. And right now I'm probably somewhere in between where, now we've hit the summer, and about this time, I think most of us would probably be going down to a lesser schedule, and so maybe this is the time to now do some more reflection and trying to figure out what we're all going to do in the fall. But that's just my personal take on it. I know everybody responds differently, and I have some colleagues who have produced some incredible content on a high level, like on a daily basis in some cases, that is mind-blowing. So I think everybody just responds to it differently. How about you? How have you missed live performance and music, or do you just play on your own? What have you been doing?
I hadn't touched my violin since February. Until a couple weeks ago, when I was called to do this random video thing in Long Beach. I posted about that on Facebook, and it was just 5 musicians all masked up in a large room at the Long Beach Museum. That was kind of surreal, to be pulled out of the quarantine and suddenly be in a room with my colleagues. And then just as quickly yanked back out of it. And here I am back again.
Did it feel differently? Like, wow, I really have missed this? Or was it like weird?
Yeah.
In that? Oh, okay.
No, it was really surreal. And it was like, I was giddy for a while, but it was kind of funny because as soon as we started rehearsing and playing, all the, weirdness just went out the window, and it felt like everything was back to normal.
Yeah. Gary Payne, who, shared on the comments, one of your comments to us about, when you write those eloquent emails to the group, and And so I'm going to read one from 2018 that he shared on the comments, and it was from the Welcome to the Pleasures project. So it was the Purcell ode we were doing, and so this is you, Amy. Quote: I didn't sleep well last night, and yet I rolled out of bed this morning, excited for more, in capital letters, rehearsals. I was eager to hear more of us, and we did not disappoint. You might say, oh, Amy, you just have low standards, or you're deaf. But I disagree. I think we sound fabulous together, and I'm really happy about that, end quote. Do you remember those words?
No.
Okay.
It sounds like me.
And Amy, I got to tell you, they may seem innocuous to you in some ways, but you have to remember that sometimes these weeks for me on my end feel like I've been hit by a train, literally, because these BCSD projects sometimes fall in the middle of other projects that I'm doing. And so like when I see you guys for our sessions, I'm usually cramming it into other things, and I can get pretty tired come Thursday. And then we have our concert, and adrenaline kind of gets you through it. And sometimes I wake up on Saturday morning for our second concert of the weekend, and I'm feeling kind of, mopey and a little bit of a letdown and feeling tired from the week. And then you send an email like that. And that email is like a shot of adrenaline and goodwill that every time you've sent it, it has perked me up. And it's like, okay, I'm totally amped up now for this second concert tonight. I think it's going to be even better than the first. So I don't know that if you knew that these emails that go out like that can be very helpful, and they bring a lot of wonderful, they're community building. And so I thank you for those. I really do.
Thanks. But I mean, whenever I write those, I never plan to write them. I never say to myself, okay, next gig we do, I'm going to send an email, because I just feel like if I don't feel it, I'm not going to write anything. And sometimes in the days leading up to a Messiah or something, like, yeah, I'm not going to write anything this year. It's starting to become a cliche. What else do I have to say? I just keep saying the same thing over and over. And then inevitably, we have this amazing concert again of the same old Messiah. And I go home to my home state, and I'm just like, God, that was so amazing. Why do I feel this way? Why does nothing else in life make me feel this way? I need to tell the people that I work with that they make me feel happy, because very few people on earth do that. And
I say this every week. And I'm going to say it again, that we're not unique in this, but we take great care as to the rosters that we put together for particular projects, because yes, we who doesn't love doing these projects with stellar musicians all around us, but also stellar human beings all around us. Adds up, it adds up. And when you are able to do a top flight, top shelf Messiah, and you've got some really good people to do it with, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I personally, and I'm sure you have as well, been in many situations where you've got incredible musicians to the left and to the right of you, but you walk away feeling a little cold and a little that was musically kind of cool, but from another perspective, I didn't really get anything of it. That happens from time to time. So I do appreciate those comments, and keep them coming. Don't do them all the time, because if you do them all the time, then they get stale, right?
Oh, I know.
But you find, I have found, it's almost as if sometimes I feel like you're reading my mind, when I need it most. Yeah, you're like the Holy Spirit, Amy. When I need it most, it's almost as if you know that I've had a hard week, or I'm super tired, or I'm feeling. Sometimes the confidence isn't there, and as musicians, I think everybody can attest to this, that our confidence wanes, and it's in those moments of confidence waning when you send these emails out, and I think it just lifts me and it lifts the entire ensemble. So keep them coming, Yeah.
Well, I guess you need to feel underconfident more often, because that seems to be the signal. I don't know. I mean, maybe maybe you're so drained because you give so much, and I feel it. I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is, yeah, I do empty the tank, but that's just how I'm wired.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to do something, you might as well empty the tank and give it all.
We like you that way.
And,
spent.
If it doesn't go well, well, it didn't go well. But at least I walk away feeling as though I give it, a good shot. And that's what I'm able to do with BCSD. I said this to Aaron Westman last week, and certainly everybody that has been on the series in the weeks prior, is that you guys always give me the sense that I can go left, right, fast, slow, high, low, anything, because you guys are like a Ferrari. It's like I'm driving a Ferrari. And so
I like being compared to a car.
Yeah, you do give me that sense of complete control, that you guys are completely nimble. And so that's when I decide to just let it all go. And I think Messiah, even old Messiah, never gets stale with us, because I think we're able to do that. Any other things that you would like to talk? Did you ever ask me a question? You did ask me a question about silence, right?
Yes.
You did, yeah.
Did you already forget?
Yes, I did. Say some more about your memories, Amy.
Oh God, I have no memories. I'm middle-aged.
You're middle-aged?
Well, I mean, okay, I remember, do you still grunt when you play? Because, the first couple times when those of us in LA were hired by you to come down and play with you, in your choir, we could hear your like Glenn Gould type grunting on the keyboard, and it was like equal parts creepy and stimulating.
Yeah, I used to do that. I don't do it so much anymore, and it's because somewhere along the line, a sound engineer said, "You're really making it hard for us to edit recordings." But yeah, and it was something that was in the subconscious. I didn't realize I was doing it. And when we did that St. John Passion all those years ago in 2003, I remember hearing the recording afterwards, and I was literally grunting the whole way through without knowing it. And Tanya Tompkins, who was playing cello, principal cello on that occasion, said to me at the end of the rehearsal week, she says, "You probably know this, and somebody's mentioned this to you, but you're making these really bizarre gurgling, grunting sounds through the rehearsal, and I don't know if you plan to record this, but you might want to not do that. It might make its way onto the recording." Anyway, I didn't have a way to stop it. It was just something that I kind of fell into, but I don't think I do it anymore. I don't think I do that anymore, and I don't even know why.
It was fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know why that was. I mean, I'm sure there are things you do that you don't realize you're doing. You just sort of, it's like, it's just a default that you fall into.
I used to drool on my violin.
Did that do anything to the varnish, or?
You can see like the imprint of the puddles that I didn't wipe away. Right.
Somebody just mentioned on the comments, I don't know if you're tracking the comments, but he said the comments are so quiet because you're not commenting. Usually you're the one that's commenting every second. So, but
nobody's watching.
Oh, no. We definitely have people watching. We've got Anna Washburn, who just made a comment, Gary Payne, Sue Feldman, another dear friend, Libby Weber, another dear friend, Maury Baker's on there, David Kurtenbach, and on down the line. A lot of our friends and colleagues are tuning in. So, and if you're tuning into this series for the first time, these are archived, so you can go onto YouTube and our Facebook page, and you can watch it if you care to.
Over and rewind and pause.
Correct. And Amy pointed out in a text, I think, to me earlier today that she was the benefactor of the graphic that we've come up for this ongoing series called Pull Up a Chair. And going forward, you'll hear me referring to the name of that. That'll be the title of the series, Pull Up a Chair. And it's a baseball reference. Those I'm sure some of you know this. Vin Scully, the great baseball announcer, commentator, used to always say when he'd come on to do a game, pull up a chair wherever you may be and spend the next 2 or 3 hours with me as I call the game. So it's a reference to that. And my hope is that you're able to pull up a chair and listen to the interesting folks that we interview here week to week. So Amy, any parting thoughts as I queue up something here?
Can we take another look at that picture of me munching on the taco?
Yeah, let's go back here. We can certainly do that.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, there you are. That was, by the way, in Coyoacán. And I know that only because I know that window that's behind you.
I was trying to identify the window. Yeah, I couldn't.
That's in Coyoacán, and there's a window that I know very well because that I've been to that restaurant many, many times. Gary Payne wants you to say something about your brother. Your brother was playing the piano in that video, but he's a violinist as well?
No, he's a climate scientist.
No, but yes, but as a kid, when you guys were growing up, was he doing violin as well, or was it just piano?
Oh, no, just piano. He was,
just piano. Okay.
Unlike me, he was actually really talented.
And that was intentional, right? Your parents probably said, we need a pianist in the house and we need a violinist, so that way Amy has somebody who can accompany her.
Well, he's my older brother, and he started piano when he was 4.
Okay.
I don't know. I guess they just put violin on me to mix it up, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you learned the violin, and along the way, obviously, you discovered the Baroque violin, and I think that was during your time at UC Berkeley. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Was there a particular player or a repertoire that you heard that said, oh my goodness, I need to do that? What was it?
Oh, no. You know, my story is so different from basically everyone else's because, and it's not a good thing.
Oh, okay. Should we avoid it today?
No. I mean, I was not, unlike most of our colleagues, I was not drawn towards Baroque music. I was dumped onto it as a last resort.
I see.
Yeah, I was an undergrad at UC Berkeley, and I was a film major, and I wanted to just keep playing the violin, so I enrolled in one of those 1-unit performance courses. It was like a string quartet, modern. And for some reason, I always felt like I was the weakest link, even though the other violinist was like technically worse than me. But I don't know, so like at the end of the quarter, our coach, she was nice enough to tell me, like, for the next semester, my schedule wasn't going to work with the rehearsals. I think that was her nice way of saying she didn't want me to play anymore. And she said, if you want to keep playing the violin in some form, you know, the Collegium is always looking for violins. So, so that's what I did. And I know we're running out of time, but man, that was a nightmare playing in the Collegium.
Okay, all right. Who was leading the Collegium in those days at UC Berkeley?
Well, it was led by David Taylor, who is, you know, lutenist for Philharmonia. Right. I did take some private lessons with Elizabeth Blumenstock back then. John Butt's wife, Sally Butt, was the concertmaster.
Oh, wow. Yes, I know who she is.
Yeah. I met Jenny Ellis there. She had just come back from the Netherlands or something. And she was like a guest singer. She was so good. I remember I was so impressed with her. And this was like 25 years ago.
Yeah, are you talking about Jenny Ellis Campani?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's now at you knew this, right? She's at USC.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did the Latin American program. You, me, and her, and Danielle Zuluaga, and a bunch of people.
Right.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, it was a nightmare switching from modern pitch to Baroque pitch.
Yeah.
And playing in what was basically a community orchestra that was like the stereotype of early music performers, like musicologists and amateurs.
Right. Well, I, for one, am glad that you had honed your skills by the time I met you. And again, like 2002 or thereabouts, 2001. And you've been playing with BCSD every season since then, and I anticipate you joining us for many seasons to come. And And I'm going to leave our viewers today, because if you checked into the interview today a little bit late, you missed this gem. And with that, Amy, I'm going to say thank you so much for your time today, for making time. You probably didn't know that I was going to ask you, but you're always so enthusiastic. You make all these beautiful comments on when others are being interviewed that I thought, all right, we're going to move it around and we're going to put the spotlight on you. And it's been fascinating because you've read from your journal today, you've shared some pictures from Mexico City, and here we go, folks, here we go. Let's do a little bit of a, this is always a little tricky, a little clunky on my technology, but thank you, Amy, for joining us today.
Thanks, Ruben. Notice that bow vibrato?
Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.